Hello and welcome to How Would You Rate Your Pain? We will be exploring life, loss, love, and the power of resilience. I am Dr. Tiffany Bartell. Thank you for listening, and I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Hello and welcome to another episode of How Would You Rate Your Pain? I am Dr. Tiffany Bartell, your host, and I'm here with my friend Regina Gee from Wellspring Coaching. Welcome.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about Wellspring Coaching, what it is, and what you do here in Chattanooga.
Yes. So my world is all about working with depression as disconnection, not just disease. Mm-hmm. And so my background is integrative health coaching. So it's this question of like the whole health, all of these things, not just one or the other. Yeah. And then I weave that together with my background in neuroscience and anthropology and my lived experience of depression to bring this like, okay, how do we help with depression? That's not just pills. That's not just therapy.
Yeah. So it's, it's a whole constructed program. And I had the pleasure of having, your consulting session, I think it was, and going through kind of your quizzes. And it seems like there's a lot of emphasis on like connection and, whether that's like with yourself and with others, but kind of just like multi-level, examination of it.
Yeah. So the idea of depression as disconnection, well, if that's what we're working with, then reconnection is the antidepressant. Reconnection is the work. And then reconnection to what? So I've done all this research, and there's 23 different areas that I kind of work with. So the 5 big ones are body, place, people, source, and hope. And so body, nutrition, movement, sleep, like those very physical things. Like, hey, what are we eating? Are we eating? Like, because food gets really hard for me when I'm depressed.
Yeah.
People, what does service look like? What does community look like? What does true self look like? Because you're a people too. Source is my word for like divine, universe, God, anything that fits there. Like, and also if none of those big words fit, it's just something that's bigger than yourself. So getting out of your own way. And like I could go into the other two too, but
yeah, we'll get there. So I'd love to hear, like you mentioned, anthropology and neuroscience. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like your journey into this work and what kind of got you curious about it.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing we share in common is a lot of curiosity. And every time we sit down to talk, we're like, oh, and what about this? What about this? What about this? Yeah. So, go for it.
The way I've been thinking about this recently is like my goal as a person is to be one of the most interested people, not interesting. Like I don't need people looking at me. I want to be the curious person who's like, oh, tell me more about that. Like, how does that go? Yeah. And so Wellspring is very much this product of me being interested in these like disparate areas and like, how do I put this together? Yeah. So I was this 20-year-old undergraduate who was studying neuroscience because I was curious, like, how does the mind work? What is consciousness? Like, make it make sense. Yeah. And then I was also studying anthropology. So like these very micro and macro questions of what does it mean to be human? And I didn't know how they fit together until I studied abroad, had this incredible, like, wow, look at how big the world is. Look at how big I am and capable. And then I came home and got incredibly depressed. And so I was in this depression pit. And then I was like, neuroscience, anthropology, mental health. This is the bridge that I've been like building towards. Yeah, looking for. Okay, make it make sense. Like, why am I depressed? And then I tried the traditional story of like you're depressed, medicate it, and it didn't touch it for me. And so that's when I leaned in and I was like, there's a bigger story here. How do I tell it? And I started asking those questions of like, what is depression? What do we know about it in the neuroscience space and the anthropology space? And then I put them together. And I thought I was going to get a PhD doing that, but then COVID happens. And I was like, well, I still want to ask these questions of depression and wholeness. Where can I do that? And that's when I found health coaching. And I was like, oh, I can do this in a personal way, not just an academic way. And that was really exciting to me.
Well, and I'm a big qual person. I love qualitative data and that idea of lived experiences and exploring them. I find that data fascinating. And so I think, we've talked before about, that curiosity. It fuels you, especially if you're more of a qual person, it pushes you towards people and it pushes you towards stories, and they're sitting with people and learning about them and seeing, ultimately if you could be helpful.
Yeah. I remember one of my professors was like, stories are data with soul. And I was like, ooh, tell me more.
I love that. Yeah. Stories are data with soul. I'm going to like save that.
Yes. And so that's the data I love working with, because I am a data person and I love seeing these patterns, but in a soulful way. Like, what does that mean about who you are and what matters to you and the particular you that is like navigating this human thing?
So how did you come up with the name Wellspring?
So the name Wellspring came from this book I was reading called Mystical Hope. And it's by Cynthia Bourgeau, who's a Christian mystic. And I love that question of mysticism. And she talked about how the journey to the wellspring of hope is really a journey to the innermost ground of our being, where we meet and are met by God. And so that idea of going inward and this question of hope, because I think depression and hope are in this conversation together.
Yeah.
And so wellspring, okay, this innermost ground, how do we get there? And then what comes out of it? Like, what is asking to be connected from inside of us to outside of us?
I think there's such a theme of that search, if you look through novels and, movies and even memoirs of, people going on a journey and they're looking really far and deep inside themselves, which can be scary, but the idea that you'd be met there with something lovely.
Yes.
And come out not alone.
Yeah, I have this deep belief that there's something lovely to be found, like in the depths, and like that's why I work with depression, is because of this idea of depression as teacher.
Yeah.
And like, what is this here to show me? And like, I love the metaphor of caving and like inward spelunking. Like, you have to go into the dark to go deeper.
Yeah.
And like approaching that as an invitation for curiosity and learning rather than like defeat and the end of something is really life-giving for me.
What do you think is scary for some people about like having that search or looking inward? Because, I have friends and family that are like, I know I need therapy, or I know I need to talk to someone about what's going on, but like, not now. I don't have energy for that, or I don't want to do that. I don't want to think about that right now. So they're living out of it, and it's really hard. But there's something that feels like it might be harder about taking a journey like that.
Well, the inward journey is interesting because you have to do it for yourself, but you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
And so like, if you try to do it alone, it's really easy to get lost. Like there's such a vast landscape on the inside.
The caving metaphor, especially for those of you in Tennessee listening, is a very good one.
Yeah. Like, you can go in the cave. It's disorienting. It's dark. It's like, oh gosh, like, have I been here before? Like, can I even fit through that hole?
You might end up in Kentucky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, where are the borders? Like, what's the map? And like, for your specific internal landscape, like, it's unmapped. And like, you can kind of follow someone else's map, but if you aren't familiar with yours, like, you are going to get lost. And so it's daunting because you have to create the map. You have to like dip your toe in, or like start to like explore this tunnel in the safe way with like your guide rope, and then you come back and then you try again. Like, you don't do it all at once, but it is daunting to build your map.
I think, some of my clients, I think they're afraid of sometimes what they'll find. And what would you speak to that?
Afraid of what you'll find. That's this question of like, are you burning fear or are you burning love as your fuel? And so if you're afraid of what you'll find, like, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And that like, oh, like, what is this here to tell me? Like, what is this here to show me about myself? And the more we can kind of like be open to like, what is this here to show me? Rather than like, oh my God, like, what if I get stuck? Because like, it's not about never doing hard things.
Sure.
Like, I just had a baby, and it taught me so much about like magical and hard are woven together. They can be. They don't have to be. Like, it doesn't have to be hard to be good.
Two truths could be true.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, oh, like, do the good hard thing.
Yeah.
And it's okay if it's scary.
Well, and there's good hard, and there's like hard, and so we're talking about good hard, but they can feel very similar.
They can feel very similar. And this is another thing that I think depression is trying to teach us, is like, what beliefs do we have that are keeping us like stuck in hard versus like, what's the good hard? And in a way of like, sometimes it's about doing less. Like, if we're trying to do everything, like, what is actually important for us to do and what isn't important for us to do?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, the good hard shows you that, because you can't do everything. You have to respect your limits and your gifts. Like, that's my favorite definition of self-care, is respecting your limits and your gifts. So depression is teaching us to respect our limits, because we can't do it all.
Because it kind of slows you down. I think that's one interesting thing for my clients who have experienced like a depressive episode for maybe the first time in their life, and they're really high, achievers hitting a wall. Like, I think sometimes we fool ourselves into thinking walls don't exist.
Yes.
Or they exist for other people because of, how they choose to live, but they don't exist for me.
Or I'm a good person if I don't have any walls.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
oh, like, no, you are still worthy.
Yeah.
Even with your walls.
Yeah.
Your limits.
And maybe the walls are there, but like, you're always like running around them or, plowing through them, and there's dents in your wall that like maybe are really painful. It's a hard way to live,
Dents
to not
against your
respect
wall,
that.
and then how many concussions have you gotten from like
Yeah.
beating your head against the wall rather than like, oh, this is my wall.
It's a limit.
Yeah.
I
And
have
then
limits.
finding the neighbor who has the wall, and then we like that's how we build community, is like we all have our little houses rather
Yeah.
than like just living in a wasteland.
That gets back to that connectedness. I almost, am wondering like how much that like really difficult, personal belief that people hold that inherently they're bad. And I don't know if we hold it consciously always, but like that underlying belief that I run into a lot with clients, how much that makes the kind of work you're describing hard, because if you're the cave system, exploring you would lead to running into bad things. And versus if we could hold our goodness, then an exploration of it would be difficult but not scary.
So this is exactly like why I have my Envision group, is because people are coming and being like, I don't believe that I'm worthy of what I want, or like I don't believe I'm worthy of belonging in the places I want to be. Like I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough.
Yeah.
And that question is such a like shared human wound. Like we all have some element of that worthiness of like, oh gosh, like I'm not good enough. And it's really easy to like perseverate, like pick at it and like try to fix it and like what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me, what's wrong with me. But also like what happens when we give a devoted effort to the what's right with me, like what's good, like what is good, where are my gifts and how do I give them, and bringing that into the question of the future. So it's like if something's always wrong with me and the future is always daunting and scary, like that's where the collapse comes from.
Yeah, that's really hard.
But if it's like, if I can imagine a future that's like I want to live, and that worthiness question is like, maybe I make mistakes, but it's not catastrophic. That's where I love to lean in.
I think, to kind of piggyback on that, I think, depression work often requires an examination of identity.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me more about like your work in that with your clients.
So if you think about depression, it pops up in these transition moments. It's like we talk about postpartum depression.
Sure.
We talk about divorce. We talk about empty nesters. We talk about aging. It's like, okay, this is showing up when I'm being asked to become a new person.
Yeah.
And so how do you approach becoming a new person is, John O'Donohue calls it the reverence of approach. If you can approach the transition with that curiosity, that cheerful readiness, it's like, oh.
Even grief.
Grief.
Yeah, because you're transitioning into a life where the person's always in you, but they're not with you.
Yeah.
And whatever that relationship gave to your identity.
Including past versions of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I love to approach this question with my clients in that, like, what are you excited about? Like bringing that imagination and play and curiosity into it, and like letting that take on a life of its own. And I call it like the living the questions.
Yeah.
So it's like, who even am I? Like, what do I even want? Like asking it in a way where it's not like, God, who even am I? It's like, oh, who even am I? Like excited, and just changing that tone and seeing what happens, like playing with it. Because it just helps to have more fun with it.
Yeah, what do you think makes change so scary, and why do we lean towards predicting it's going to be negative, the outcome will be negative? Because I feel like there's like this bend of just, like, oh, and it won't be like this anymore. But we really don't, especially in our Western culture, come up with that like curiosity and excitement and expectation that it could be a good thing that comes out of it. We're like, oh, and then this won't be this way anymore, and so it'll be terrible.
Yeah, it's this belief that if I can predict it, I can protect myself from it.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I'm prepared, I'll be okay. And if I'm not prepared, I won't be okay. And again, that's another belief where you get to lean and say, is that actually true? Like if I protect myself by being prepared, am I actually going to be okay? Because life is unpredictable.
Yeah.
And so how do I get good at navigating uncertainty rather than needing certainty to be okay?
Yeah. And then I guess that goes back to trusting in self and in our own goodness, and having like a positive sense of self.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things I do in Envision is my self-trust inventory. So it's Brene Brown's anatomy of trust, the
Mm-hmm.
braving framework, and we
Yeah.
go through each, its boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. And
Ooh.
it's like, okay, where am I skilled in this and where am I not skilled in
Mm-hmm.
this?
Is that underdeveloped, overdeveloped?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, I do a lot of trauma work with my clients, and, you know, inevitably it's our superpower that's our kryptonite,
Yeah.
right? Like whatever answer we have, you know, we tend to take that answer to everything. So if you're really good at working hard, then everything that comes up, you're just going to try to work harder. So if you're having, you know, depression in your life showing up, like that working harder doesn't work, and then we kind of hit that wall.
Yeah, the working harder doesn't work, and then it turns into I'm a bad person because
Yeah.
it's not working.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
reality, it's like, wait a second, what is this depression here to show me? Like, I love to work with depression as the check engine light, and like my goal is to like get to gratitude for the check engine light, because like that light comes on and it's like, oh crap, like something could be really wrong and it's really scary. But think about if that light never came on.
I mean, your engine would blow up. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you might just need oil. I mean, I don't really know how to do anything with cars or engines. So
that light can come on for
yeah.
so many reasons.
Right.
And it's literally a sign like, okay, pull over and see what's going on.
Yeah, maintenance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Depression's the same way. Okay, pull over. What's going on? Like, let's take a look. Like,
Yeah.
let's go and take a look. And it might be an easy fix and it might be a hard fix. And either way, you're going to come out transformed for the better.
If you're listening to How Would You Rate Your Pain, you're probably a person who understands the power of talking through the issues that we're going through. I'm really excited to let you know about BetterHelp, an online therapy platform. I'm not one of their therapists, but very thankful they sponsor this show. Wherever you are, BetterHelp will match you with a licensed therapist who can listen and help you through whatever you're going through. It's flexible and entirely online. Listeners of the show can get started with 10% off the first month by clicking the link in the show notes or by going to betterhelp.com/Tiffany Bartell. So it sounds like you're working with a lot of clients who are having like phase of life changes and transitions, and like in my world, like adjustment disorder, you know, experiences. And, you know, I think that it's funny because with my students, my counseling students, there's a lot of fear around sitting with very, very sad people.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think happens for the people who, you know, are going into mental health work? You know, where's that fear of being with someone really sad coming from?
We have this fear that depression's contagious. So like if you sit with somebody in the pit, you're also going to get stuck in the pit. And the truth of the matter is, like, if you think of like someone literally being stuck in a hole, if you don't have the ladder to throw down, like it's very easy to get sucked back in. So that question of skill building of like, how do I help somebody who's in that dark place
without joining them?
Yeah. Like I don't have to get in the pit with you to help you. But the fear is that I'm going to have to get in the pit with you.
Well, and I think we think about like there's all this pictorial representations of empathy and that idea of like coming alongside, and, you know, and I think when we're working with depression, empathy has like a longer cord, you know, between us and them, because we have to be where they want to get, and we have to hold them with our belief that they
this is where
can move.
The like spiritual entrepreneurship is kind of the framework I think about it, where my business is here not just to be a coaching practice or a business, but also for me to be a better human. And like the more I can practice what I preach and embody the like, okay, hey depression, like I see you, you're here, what are you trying to show me?
Yeah.
And learn from it, and this be an example. That's the work for me. And then it ripples for my people.
Yeah, because it's your perspective. And I think people can feel what we feel about them.
Oh, for sure.
You know, when we sit with them, if we don't hold hope for them, I think they can feel that. And I was in class with the students, I think it was last week or something, and they were like, Dr. Bartell, like, how are you still happy? Like, you know, you do trauma for a living and depression and anxiety and all these things. How are you happy? And I was like, well, I get to see everyone get better. I have the best job in the world.
You get to witness this humanness.
Oh, and I know things work. And I know where they are, and I have so much compassion and sadness, you know, for the pain they experience and have experienced. But like, I know the end of the story, or not the end of the story, the end of this chapter, and like best job in the world.
Krista Tiffett talks about this as like practicing muscular hope, where it's not just this like, oh, airy fairy, like things will work out. It's like, I am literally strengthening my ability to see the good and choose the good and show up for the good, even in the midst of all of it.
Well, and I commit, and you do too, to be skillful and intentional in our practice, so that like we're not just, again, it's not kind of ethereal. It's, you know, I'm gonna pump these weights with you, and we're gonna do it, and it's science, and you know, I love that. So how do you hold hope when some of your clients might be struggling, you know, to kind of see, you know, that something lovely might be in store for them?
I go back to glimmers. So like I kind of think of like we talk about triggers all the time, and it's like, oh, this triggers me, and then like, ooh, let's talk about glimmers. So it's like even in the like tarry goopy stuck pit, it's like I'm kind of opening my eyes and turning in and be like, okay, tell me like what's your favorite thing that's happening right
like,
now?
I see something shiny.
Yeah, like my job is to see the shiny thing and be like, oh, like, hey, did you notice that? And just like just get excited. Like the wonder, and some wisdom and wonder are two of my favorite words. So kind of like bringing that into the space and exploring the glimmer, even if it's just like a little tiny speck, and then going from there.
I think that's beautiful. So let's talk practically. Like, what is, what's the format of your system, and what are the amazing things that you're doing in the community?
Thank you. So I am leaning into specializing in groups. So like we talk a lot about healing like in isolation, and then I was like, well, that's cool and all. But now I'm being drawn into like the world of group coaching.
I love it.
Which,
because your modality is based on connection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's put our bodies where our mouths are and actually practice like showing up in community.
Yeah.
And that mostly looks like my Envision group. And so Envision is this question of like, can you imagine a future you want to live? Because depression like disconnects you from that secure future. Like you feel like you're looking through a wall, you're wrapped in gauze, and it's really hard to get there. And so showing up in an Envision group, it's an 11-week program where we're asking the big questions in order to be able to imagine the future you want to live.
I love it. Yeah. So how often do they meet? And then I'd love for you to talk to you about like the quiz and the consultation that you did with me. You know, just more about that to put some like structure so people can really picture what you're doing.
Yep. So the Envision group is 11 weeks. We meet for an hour and a half every week, and it's like we go through the program together. And you like, there's creativity involved. Like you leave with your future creative project like created and something you can access again and again and again. And then I also have my connection map. So it's like those 23 areas, and we start with like, hey, where do you feel connected? Where do you feel disconnected? And then like, where are you at in the pit? So I call it my pit check, and it's a visual of the pit, and I have like pits.
And that's big. The pit of depression.
Yep, the depression pit, because the pit's my favorite metaphor.
I love it. Yeah, I mean it works.
So we have like, I have postcards of the pit, I have posters of the pit, and then what we've done recently is gotten a 9-foot by 12-foot canvas and had a community art project of the pit. So the third Thursday of every month, we roll out this big old canvas, get our paint markers out, and do the pit check where you walk it, you dance in it, you mark where you're at, and then you can sit with it if you want, or you can get like physically leave the pit because you're using your body. And so
it's very experiential.
Yeah. So the pit check happens in person on the third Thursdays every month in my free Definitely Not Therapy group.
Yes.
And then that pit is also going to be in the Art That Gets Us Through gallery in October.
Okay, so next month, which will be after this one launches, there's the art show.
Yep, at Clear Story Art, the Art That Gets Us Through. It's the conversation between creativity and mental health.
I love this.
Yeah, so that is like, I care about like approaching this conversation of depression in fun ways, and like art is fun.
Art is I find art a little stressful personally because I'm not and every time I say this to someone who's an artist, they're like, everyone's an artist. That is not my favorite medium of expression. Yeah. I think I'm a better writer probably, and maybe cookie baker. Maybe cookies are my art.
That is art. Yeah. Like it's all about how you define it. But yeah, so then like the pit check into the reconnection map. So it's like, okay, if you're in the pit, where
this
are you
is
at?
where we are.
Yep. Where do you want to be?
Yeah, I love that.
And then to get from A to B, what do you need to reconnect with? And that's when that reconnection map that we did is like the body, place, people, source, and hope. Where you disconnected, where you reconnected, and the action step of, okay, how can I actually reconnect with nature? It's like, what are you going to do today, tomorrow? It's like, I'm going to water my houseplants, and I'm going to like step 1 foot out of my door and just see the sun. That's it could be that tiny, or it could be like, I have one client who's starting to plan her, she wants to walk the Camino in Spain.
Oh, wow.
Do a pilgrimage. So it's like, choose your own adventure, and we're going to build it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you have something tangible that you're working towards, which again is that like unwinding that downward spiral that happens so much when we're feeling really down. So, you know, what do you hope for the future for your program? Like, what's your ultimate dream for Wellspring coaching?
I mean, depends. Like, are you asking me like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years?
Sure.
I'm dreaming of having this ecosystem of like my envision groups where we're dreaming about the future, because like so much oftentimes we really jump into goal setting before we're like, well, but like, why is this a worthy goal? So the envision is the dreaming space, and I want to I want to be doing those all the time because they light me up. But then I also want to have like enact groups where it's okay, like I know the dream, how do I do it? And then encourage groups where it's like, okay, I'm doing the thing, I just need the accountability in the community. So like those are 3 groups I'm dreaming about. I'm also dreaming about postpartum depression groups.
Yes, we could talk for days about perinatal mental health. Yeah,
exactly, because it's like, oh wow, you are literally like, you are permanently a new person now. And like how we hold that, this work of reconnection is so relevant in that space. And that, like, there's books in me. Like that will happen someday.
After baby's not 10 weeks old anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. Baby's 10 weeks. Like my work right now is also with baby, and like talk about like learning how to be present. It's like, okay, the more I'm here, like it's good. And then weaving in the like, okay, how do I be here and do that next step without.
Yeah, there's only 100% of the pie every day.
Exactly.
And
These
if
are
you're
my
going
walls.
to give more to one area, you have to shave off. Like, I think we tend to just be like, oh, and then I'll just absorb this too, and I'll just absorb this and absorb this. And then we're the ones that end up getting like a tinier slice. So
I was literally standing outside yesterday looking at my little garden, and I was like, wow, the metaphor of I didn't tend this garden and like the plants still grew. Like there's tomatoes everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's not what I wanted it to be because I had a baby.
You chose something different.
Yeah, and I'm tending this life instead of this life, and that's okay. And like, so a lesson in doing less, and it's what kept me out of the postpartum pit. Like leading up to having this baby, I was like, oh gosh, like
you were really intentional about like your support system, you know, how you were going to have everything go. And, you know, I think first, not everybody has access to, you know, as much of a support system as other people might, but you know, this expectation, you know, that we have of just like have the baby in the field and then keep working, you know, we really kind of carry that in our expectations of ourselves and others. You know, maternity leave is what, usually like 12 weeks or something like that.
It's short.
Yeah. And so then in that amount of time, you're supposed to figure out all the sleeping, all the diapering, all the, you know, feeding.
We talk a lot about baby
everything.
and like getting things for baby.
Yeah.
But for me, like I kept asking my midwife, like, hey, what does the baby need? What does the baby need? She's like, diapers and boobs. Like that's what she needs.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so if the baby just needs that, like what do I need to be able to show up for the baby?
Right.
And
so
then,
much more than diapers and boobs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So invest, like I was really intentional with investing in like nourishment and nutrition. I was like, okay, I need food that's good for me, that's easy to like eat. I need the body work. So like, okay, like coming back to my body and like knowing how it's changed and it's different, and like physical healing. So like there we have body, like nourishment and movement stuff there. And then like the support of the community. It's like, okay, who's here to help me recover, like leaning into the recovery. And I got to see my dream for like a depression care collective enacted with my recovery from
field
birth.
test.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, it kept me out of the pit. Like there were moments that got like kind of trenchy, and I was like, okay. But it wasn't permanent. It wasn't lasting. And that was because of my intentional preparation. So like, it's not this fear of the future that had me preparing.
Sure.
It was like, okay, I know this is going to be hard, and how do I gear up?
Yeah, I think that idea of like a recovery model, like effort recovery model, you know, theoretically, it just could be applied in so many areas of our life. You know, like if you knew well, we always know ahead of time you're getting married, when you're going to get married, or you're going to move in with somebody, or, whatever. That's, it's coming. And yet we do everything except for like take care of ourselves and prep ourselves for the transition.
Yeah.
We get towels for the new house. We get, all the wedding planner and everything. But, the planning for us, and in my work, I do quite a bit of life transitions with people where it's like, engagement, then get married. And it's really fun because a bunch of them are having babies now. and then on and on, and so, but I think that it's hard to remember the person. We take care of all the things, and yes and no are two sides of the same coin, right? So if you're saying yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And so, if you're saying yes to baby, what are going to be your no's, which you want those no's. You want them because your yes is so big and so great. But like a new job, when I was doing my PhD, I had kind of a nose to the grindstone because I didn't want to say no to my family. But the entire year after I graduated, I read nothing but fantasy. I was like, I had like a few presentations and a little bit of, work here and there to do. But like, I was like, I am not learning anything this year. Right. And I just read about like fairies and different things. Dragons. There's a lot to learn about dragons. I only know a portion of it, but I know a lot more than I did before. But it was like, I'm going to put my brain at rest and play for an entire year, give it like a little bit of a, renewal or whatever, renew the land. Yes. And that was really fun, but I don't think we really live that way regularly.
No, yeah, my depression catches up with me the most, or gets the worst, when I like pretend that like I don't prepare for the transition. So like the turmoil is the most when it just happens to me, like when I feel like a victim rather than an agent. And what you just said about yes and no being the same coin, and like we like to pretend that saying yes doesn't have a no.
Yeah.
But when we get honest about what the no is, because it's going to be there.
Sure. It has to. It's like physics, right?
Exactly. And so like acknowledging the no is like, oh, that gives you the ability to choose.
Yeah, I chose this no, so it's okay that it is a no.
Yeah, and like owning it.
Yeah. Well, and that way too, you're cognizant of what you're sacrificing. And so, okay, so you have the groups, you have the art events, you have the the system. What would people need to know if they are interested in like pursuing work with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to start like being in the Wellspring world is my Definitely Not Therapy events, which are the third Thursdays of every month at Clear Story from 6 to 7. And we do the pit check, and we do the reconnection map with a group of other people.
I love it.
It's quite fun, actually.
Yeah.
Talking about depression in a group can be fun. Who knew?
Your way. It's fun.
Yeah, my way. I've deliberately made it fun.
Yeah.
And then, so that's my free coaching event every month. If you're interested in working one-on-one with me, we can do a free discovery. It's like a disconnection discovery is kind of what I've been calling it, where we do.
So insightful. I really enjoyed doing that. Yeah.
And that shows you like how I like to reflect and how I explore these questions. And then my Envision group runs quarterly.
Okay. So how can people contact you? Are you on Instagram or website?
Yep. I'm most active on Instagram. So it's at wellspring_coaching. And then if you want to email me, it's regina.wellspringcoaching@gmail.com.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who's listening today and thinks, I'd kind of like to try to explore this, but the space between where they are now and reaching out to you feels really big?
So I have a bunch of resources that you can kind of dip your toe into. Like my YouTube channel has an explanation of the pit check. So if you go watch the video and be like, like, where am I at in the pit? Yeah. And just kind of starting to gently notice, like, okay, I'm here today. It changes even morning to evening. So just starting to ask the gentle question of the pit check, even though it stinks sometimes. I know it's fine.
So you could start the journey before you even leave your house. Yeah, I like that. So just a good baby step.
Yep, a baby step pit check, or even just asking the question of like, what is this here to teach me? And letting it percolate.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here. I feel like between the two of us, are always kind of sort of writing a book whenever we meet for coffee or anything.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Yeah, it's coming, I'm sure. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who has been watching or listening. Be gentle with yourselves, and we'll see you next time. How Would You Rate Your Pain is a pop media production and is recorded at Wavelength Studios in downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee. Our set is designed by Mad Honey Rentals, graphic design provided by Josh Wilhelm at JW Creates, music is by Michael Crosa. This podcast is not intended to be taken as medical advice and should not take the place of regular therapy. If you have questions about your mental health, see a licensed clinical therapist. I'm Dr. Tiffany Bartell. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at How Would You Rate Your Pain. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week for another episode.